Does the postponement of the State of the Nation address have anything to do with President Jacob Zuma? What does the postponement of the SONA mean for opposition parties? And has the Speaker of Parliament succumbed to pressure from opposition parties to postpone the event, that is? And what does the postponement of the SONA mean for the ANC? What time is it? It's question time. My name is Mpho. While all eyes are on what will be the outcome of the ANC's NEC meeting around the future of President Jacob Zuma tomorrow, history was made earlier today. This after Speaker Baleka Mbete announced the postponement of the State of the Nation address. Mbete cites possible disruptions as the reason behind the postponement of the event that was scheduled for Thursday. There have been various opinions on who should present this year's SONA. Meanwhile, the ANC and opposition parties applauded the move and welcomed the postponement. The DA feels vindicated, as it has been calling for the postponement of the event for quite a while now. But are the implications of the postponement of the SONA, what are they rather? And we are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views on the number 089-110-4210. Outside the borders, plus 2789-110-4210, and our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24, and live stream us there on Facebook page SABC News Online, and our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/SABC Digital News. And today, you saw that my chair is empty today, but we are expecting to be joined by Dr. Somadoda Fikeni or Levindo, political analyst, acting political editor here. Sophie Mkwena is also going to join us. But before we get into the discussion, let's have a look at some of the reactions to the State of the Nation address being postponed.
Of the Nation address is an important occasion in the national political program of Parliament. We decided to approach the President of the Republic to propose that we postpone the joint sitting in order to create room for establishing a much more conducive political atmosphere in Parliament.
We welcome the announcements made by the Speaker of the Assembly and the Chair of the NCOP with regard to the postponement of SONA. It gives us an opportunity to have a SONA that is not chaotic, a SONA that is not disruptive, a SONA that gives hope to our people, and a SONA indeed of our dreams.
Well, obviously we were delighted. This is exactly what the DA and other opposition parties have been fighting so hard for the last fortnight, that Parliament would be spared the indignity of having Mr. Zuma, the discredited president of a discredited government, delivering a SONA, which we know would be nothing more than a fairy tale.
We welcome the decision of the presiding officers to postpone the State of the Nation address. However, we reiterate our call for the convening of the motion of no confidence prior to any State of the Nation address.
Okay, well, today is one of those days in television news or journalism environment we call a crazy day. You've got breaking news and stories developing all day long. 089-110-4210. Whilst we're getting our guests into studio, we'll be taking your calls. Just tell us, what do you think of the postponement? Do you smell a rat, or it's not even a rat? What do you smell? What do you think? 089-110-4210. Let's go to our lines. Nola, welcome.
Yes, no, I think this was a great idea, according to me, because there is a problem. If you can take, according to our president, there is an allegations. According to there is some cases maybe against him, and another thing is that there are the political parties. The opposition parties were also having a dispute on that. So I think this was a great idea to postpone that institution.
But then what? Okay, the postponement happens, and then what?
Yeah, I think the top seats of the ANC, they are still going to decide, because they are going to listen from the views of the community and the other political parties. Because you must remember, Chief, this is South Africa, and this is a democratic country. And if it's a democratic country, it's not ruled by only one party. Although maybe one party wins, but all the other parties, they've got a voice. They've got the right to view their voice and their right. What must happen to the parliament? Because if we do something to this country, you don't do it for only for your party only, but you do it for the whole nation for all the South Africans.
Okay, Nola, thanks very much. Well, my director tells me that Sophie is ready, so we welcome indeed our acting political editor, Sophie Mgwin. Hutata. Yep. Did you expect that it was going to happen like this, that indeed it was going to be postponed? Because I remember, you were one of those people who were saying, you know what, guys, chill. JZ is going to deliver the State of the Nation.
Well, my argument was that in terms of the ANC hasn't taken a decision that he shouldn't do that.
Correct.
But that the State of the Nation will be postponed. Mm-hmm. It's something new, because remember, it was not something that ANC had planned. Yeah. Neither did government in terms of the presidency, yes, even the Speaker of Parliament. But as they indicated that after looking at what has transpired this whole week, clearly there was no way. And of course, you were aware that since Friday, the opposition has been very, very vocal, saying it's not going to happen. Yeah. So in terms of who was expected to do it, clearly in terms of the ANC and government, it was going to be President Zuma, but postponing the State of the Nation now because of all the reasons that they put forward. And one would say pressure from the opposition. Yeah.
But don't you, I mean, the Speaker then says, when we got to the President's office, he actually said, in fact, I was just writing to you that please postpone this. Let's try and get into his head. Why ask for a postponement?
Why take ANC through this pain? Let's start there. Mm-hmm. President Zuma was there in 2007 when his predecessor lost the conference. Yeah. He was there during that painful transition. He was there on the day Mbeki was recalled as a respected politician, a strategist, as people often characterize him. Yeah. He should have anticipated that the last term I have to do things differently, because he knew very well that he was not going to contest for a third term as the ANC president. He knows very well that there's no way he can come back as the head of state because of the constitution. If you always go around and tell people how rational and how, you have this, you are so principled in terms of ensuring your organization is intact, there's synergy, there's unity, perhaps in 2007 and 2008, ANC didn't anticipate all those problems. Yeah. But now as a leader of the ANC, Ramaphosa is part of the presidency. It's not someone who's coming from outside where you need a real transition. Yeah. Ramaphosa has worked with President Jacob Zuma. You remember, Jesse actually reminded me, but I know that. He was the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC working with Ramaphosa. Yeah. Let's go back to CODESA. You know very well that Mbeki, Zuma, Ramaphosa, the late Joe Slovo, those were the people who were working together in terms of the transition from national party to ANC. You can't plan better for your own party transition.
Hold it there. Wiseman.
Good afternoon, Mbo, and good afternoon to your guest. Look, Mbo, I'm not smelling a rat man. I'm smelling Jacob Zuma himself. This thing, postponement of SONA, it is very clear, Mbo. It is about Jacob Zuma. You know, Mbo, let me take you 3 years or 4 years ago.
Yes.
When the EFF was trying all their powers to show the South Africans that Jacob Zuma is a criminal. What the ANC was saying was that no, Julius Malema is bitter because of what he was expelled. So why now, if Jacob Zuma was never corrupt, why now the ANC finally listened to EFF? Mpo. Look, Mpo, yesterday, last night, Julius Malema said on the justice factor that the EFF may not be a political party in power, but they are very powerful. And when you say that, the pressure from the opposition, you must mention this opposition, because if the EFF was not in that opposition groups, Zuma was going to deliver the SONA, and Zuma was not going to resign or to be persuaded to resign or to be recalled. Yeah. But what I know is maybe he's going to resign because they're going to persuade him to resign. The fact is important, the EFF is playing a big role in South African politics. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Indeed, let's just look at the role of the opposition in all this. They have made enough noise. I mean, Skaba Hemisa, indeed, how Hemiwi.
Yes, particularly a party like the EFF. Remember, Malema is a product of the African National Congress. It's easy for him and those around him, people like Floyd Shivambu, people like Dali Mpofu, they've been part of the ANC machinery, either preparing for elections or the conferences or to remove individuals in power. Therefore, what do you expect?
Let's welcome Datu Figeni from our Hatfield studios. Datu Figeni, welcome to Question Time. We appreciate you making time to talk to us. Did you expect today's developments? Okay, Datu Figeni, can you hear us? Okay, Datu Figeni can't hear us as yet. But let's go to our lines. Jan, you are in Hammanskraal. Jan?
Yeah, my question, I will direct it to all of you, the three of you.
Okay.
I just want to know, what powers does the President Zuma have to collapse the parliament?
To do what? Jan?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I didn't get the last part. You say, what power does...
No, I just want to know.
Yes.
Or let me rephrase it. Does the President have the power to collapse the parliament?
To corrupt it?
Yes.
Or collapse? Okay. All right. No, to collapse.
The Constitution is clear what needs to happen in terms of if there was to be a transition. You'd recall that in 2008, after Mbegi's recall, you had Ivy Matsipe-Kasabur as an acting president, the late Dr. Ivy Matsipe-Kasabur, because there, the deputy president then, Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, decided to resign. But if Phumzile didn't resign and he was in the good books of the then NEC, Phumzile could have stepped in as the acting president. Okay. But there was that kind of a technicality. So in this case, I can't understand how you can collapse the entire system when there are people who can take over. For example, I've already indicated that President Zuma has got a deputy. The deputy has been part of the presidency. I can't see, there's no crisis, but it depends on whether he will write that resignation letter. Okay. Or else NEC saying he must be recalled. So the decision lies within two people, that is the NEC tomorrow and President Zuma himself. Of course, if that doesn't happen, then the issue is on the 22nd of February, what's going to happen? And that's the humiliation that the ANC is trying to avoid.
Yep. Okay. Is it Rosalind?
That's correct.
Welcome.
Good evening. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Has anybody considered that this delay, for the whatever, the speech with Zuma, has anybody considered that he's playing for time so that he can flee the country without facing all the charges against him?
So you think the Dubai story is true?
Yes, I definitely do.
Oh, okay, Rosalind, thanks very much. Let me welcome Dr. Soma Tadafigen. Tadafigen, I hope you can hear us now. Do you think President Zuma will resign perhaps in the next, 24 or 30 hours?
Well, I do think that the postponement of the State of the Nation address as well as the meeting of the NEC has now put a lot more pressure, which makes that a likely possibility.
Now, what we're hearing is that he has said, and these are, speculations and, third-hand reports also, that he has said, well, I'm still popular with the masses. You cannot just get rid of a person like that, and I'm not going to resign. Rather do it. Fire me.
Well, I do think that if he were to dare the leadership and make the life difficult for the leadership, then they are likely to make sure that his exit is not going to be as dignified as it ought to have been. And secondly, I do think that at times President Zuma has his own universe of logic that tend to be at variance with the commonsensical one of the mainstream. Hence, in many instances, you have seen him contradict the very ANC itself. Increasingly, he has become more alienated, and the reason for that is because ANC for too long had allowed him to grow to a point of being bigger than the party itself.
Yes. Dan, you are in Mpumalanga. Welcome.
Hello. How are you, sir?
I'm well. Thanks for the call.
Yes. I just want to ask one question.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask, can the President Zuma cause a downfall of the whole country alone? And if it is possible that he can cause the whole country, can cause a downfall for the whole country, then I want to ask, why, if we say he must go, what about others who were surrounded him? I think it's very much impossible for the man to go alone.
Then, President, your line is very, very bad there. Unfortunately, we have to cut it. But we are taking your calls, 089-110-4210, 089-110-4210. We just want to understand from your perspective, what do you think of today's development and what are your wishes? What do you think should happen? Sophie, let's look at the NEC. President Zuma is an ex-officio member. So this meeting that has been called tomorrow, he has the right to attend. Do you see him attending, or he would excuse himself or recuse himself when the matters surrounding him are addressed? And if, well, suppose he doesn't attend, but the matter is addressed, would he have the numbers for, of people who would fight his battles there?
I don't want to claim to know President Zuma and so much, but I know President Zuma a bit because as a former political reporter, I've worked with President Zuma, particularly from 2005 to 2007, literally covering the ANC. That was my responsibility, and he was the most busy ANC leader at that time because Mbeki was held up with government
state
activities.
Matters, yes.
He can particularly because he is an ex-officio member, he's allowed to attend that meeting. But I don't know whether it will be wise for him to go to that meeting, because many people will see that as perhaps an attempt to intimidate people, because truth be told, currently he's still the president of the republic, whether people like it or not. And to ensure that the environment is conducive for people to express themselves freely.
Yes.
You are not being labeled as now a sellout, because right now the NEC, yes, in terms of the outcome of the conference, you can see the ANC delegates were saying, let's combine the two factions, but definitely there's a dominant faction there.
Yeah.
And other people have decided now to rally behind the new leadership, but also rally behind the ANC, not an individual. And him being there might intimidate those people who have taken a decision that now that we have a new leadership, we have demobilized our forces, we're rallying behind the new leadership in the interest of the country and the ANC. People might be intimidated. It happened when Beg was recalled. We know there were members of the ANC, particularly those who were supporting Beg, who were not supporting the move. But finally, they accepted the decision. You don't want people to feel intimidated.
That we can, in politics, we indeed say power, or rather loyalty follows power. If this matter was to be put to a vote, or even, as they say in the ANC, we don't just vote, there needs to be consensus, influence each other and all that. Do you see pockets of some leaders perhaps still advocating his cause in the NEC?
Well, I do think that, remember that some of the people's fortunes, personal fortunes, are closely tied to President Jacob Zuma. For example, they do know that if he steps down and there is a cabinet reshuffle, some of them may not return to those positions, and they may never ever return. And secondly, some of them are facing court challenges. They do know that once you have a new president, he has to appoint a director of the National Prosecuting Authority and may exercise some influence on law enforcement and many other anti-corruption programs. And that may make their life very uncomfortable. So it might be the last stand for some of them, where it is do or die, sink or swim, for just personal preservation, not because of any ideology or principle. And that in itself may be smaller in number, but it will be very intense.
I want to use this minute. I'll come to you just now, Sophie, and perhaps with a similar question. Let's look at the fact that Zimbabwe, late last year, had, I don't even know what to call that, but they say it's not a coup. Fine. But they were able to seamlessly replace Robert Mugabe. Now you're having South Africa, which is heading kind of like along the same lines, where the ruling political party says we want to get rid of our president. Are we seeing a shift perhaps in the ideology of how the liberation movement is perhaps becoming adapting to 21st century models of leadership, where they wouldn't really be scared to deal with their own leaders?
What we are seeing here are liberation movements which are seeing a possibility of losing power, and they have been seeing their progressive decline of fortunes. And they decide, for us to renew ourselves, you may have to purge some of the leaders who may be seen as responsible for the decline. And that has been the case in Zimbabwe, and that is the case here in South Africa. The modalities might be different, but the logic is still the same, because since 2009, ANC has been seeing a progressive decline to a point where today ANC has lost all the metros. When the president flies to parliament, he goes to an opposition area When he goes to the seat of government, it's an opposition area. When he goes to Lutuli House, it's an opposition area. When he goes home over the weekend, it's an opposition-controlled area.
Thanks very much. Sophie, you were in Addis. You met with various African leaders. Give me the scoop. What are they saying? You had some behind-the-scenes talk.
You know, the sad thing with being a leader, when your term of office is about to end, you can see you become a liability. But I'm not saying anything, but clearly you can see everybody is jostling to get closer to the influential people or person. That reminds me of a dinner that was organized for former President Nelson Mandela as part of the centenary. We had only, I think, 3 or 4 heads of states. Out of how many heads of states from the continent?
50
Previously,
plus.
When South Africa was hosting anything, it would be a stampede.
Yes.
That's my answer.
Okay. A political one at that. But that was question time. We thank our guests for joining us and you for watching as well. But from me and the entire crew, you have yourself a wonderful time.